So good morning. My name is Niklas Schmalholz from POLIS. I'm the communication manager of the Lens project. And today we are talking about the sound of silence, question mark. We will share the citizens' perspective on the impacts of vehicle noise pollution today. This webinar is recorded and will be made available on YouTube. And we will basically have 2 hours where we let our Lens stakeholders talk. These are representatives from citizens initiatives from Germany and the Netherlands. And I will give you now a very brief introduction concerning the rules of the webinar. So as I've said, recordings, presentations, and summaries will be made available on our Lens website. And if you have questions, please write them in the chat. And POLIS and our moderator, Hester Walton, will select the questions and read them out. Please write everything in the chat because we don't have time for you to speak up because we only have 2 hours today and we have a lot to present. In case we are not be able to select your questions, you can always approach our presenters, or if you have further questions, you can ask my colleague Fanny Boccioli or myself. The email addresses are here. So in case you want to connect with us, our homepage of the Lens project is lens-horizon Europe, one word, .eu, or you can scan the QR code. And we are also have social media, which is Twitter and X. And our main channel is LinkedIn that you can find via the QR code or through linkedin.com/company/lens-project. And here you can see our agenda. I'm currently presenting the rules of the webinar. Then I will give a brief video introduction that will highlight the noise pollution challenges. And then I give the floor to our project coordinator, Leonidas. And then we will talk about the different perspectives on noise pollution of vehicles in the Netherlands. And then we will hear comments from our citizen groups that will highlight several challenges that exists in the Netherlands, which is the regional group of Drechterland and Amersfoort, but we'll also hear comments from Germany, from the Nordschwarzwald. I will try to start the video now. I hope you should be able to hear something. If you hear loud noises, and then you know that our video has the right impact. I hope this was pretty clear. And I hope you were able to see it. So probably I assume what you did is when the video started that you were turning down the volume on your computer or your headset. The problem is basically that, of course, we cannot do that in real life. I mean, of course, we can block our ears, but there isn't really much possible there. So I think this was a great opportunity to highlight the problems. And now I will give the floor to Leonidas, our project coordinator from Lens, to highlight what our research is of our project across the last couple of years.
Yes, thank you very much, Niklas. Good morning to everyone. Of course, on one hand, it's nice to see so many people being interested in that. On the other hand, of course, having so many people interested in that means that too many people are also annoyed by noise that these vehicles do. Before I start my presentation, let me introduce myself. My name is Leonidas Ntziachristos. I'm professor of mechanical engineering at Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, and we coordinate the Lens project, which is funded by the Horizon Europe program. It is a research and innovation action funded with 5 million euros by the European Commission, with the aim to help policy makers and the authorities understand the extent of the problem and also propose solutions about pollution and noise from motorcycles. We are a consortium of 15 partners. EMISIA, which is a spin-off company of our university, leads the project. And then we have a number of research and academic institutions around Europe that you can see on the screen. We have representatives from the Netherlands, from Germany, from Sweden, from Austria, from Spain, from Belgium, and Czech Republic, and France. And we also have vehicle manufacturers on board. So we have BMW, KTM, Ducati, and Piaggio. And we work together in this project. I think to a certain extent, revealing the extent of the problem, but as I've said before, also offering solution, especially in the case of pollution caused by motorcycles. And I'm not going to go into the details of this slide, but of course, today's webinar is on the noise issue, which is caused by motorcycles and scooters and two-wheelers in general. And I have here some excerpts from the press on reactions from citizen groups, and also authorities in different countries. I want to say, though, something that I understand is not so annoying on a first level, which is the pollution caused by motorcycles. It is not audible. It is not visible, but it exists. So we as scientists need to also reveal this problem, understand the problem, and also offer solution for not just the noise, but also the things that we cannot recognize with our physical senses, but they kill us. And those are the pollutants. Okay, the main objectives of the project that I will very roughly present to you is to develop techniques and methods how to measure emission and noise from LVs, L category vehicles, motorcycles and mopeds, to characterize the noise and pollutant emissions from such vehicles, real vehicles from the street, to deploy techniques to identify the extent of the tampering of these vehicles in the real world, and then use all of this information, synthesize all of this information to provide recommendation for decreasing the noise and the pollutants. As I've said, we are basically research institutes. We are not authorized to bring these measures. We develop knowledge, and then people like you and policymakers should use this knowledge to actually bring action on the field. So without further ado, I would like to just present to you what we are doing in this project. We are, as I told you, are interested both in emissions and in noise. And when it comes to emissions, we are primarily measure emissions of those vehicles in the lab. We have so far measured 57 vehicles on the dynamometer. We are measuring emissions over the type approval driving cycle, which is WMTC, and we are comparing these results with real-world driving cycles. As you can see, we are measuring a number of pollutants which are of relevance to human health. We are 4 different organizations that we do that across Europe, and this is important because this means that we collect vehicles from the national fleets, and these vehicles might be of different specifications from the manufacturer, or they might also be of different conditions because of the different users and the different intervention of the user on such vehicles. So you see we have vehicles from Greece, from Austria, from France, and from Spain in that. And we have compared the different laboratories using the same vehicles so that our results are comparable and they are beyond doubt that they are reliable results. But we're not only doing that. We have developed our own measurement devices that you can see here on the saddle of different vehicles, and we are actually measuring those vehicles on actual streets. Those are results from Thessaloniki in Greece, where you see the rider, you see the devices on the back of the rider, and we are collecting emissions as the vehicles are driven throughout urban driving, but also extra urban driving. And again, here you see that we have the 4 different laboratories plus Prague, our Czech colleagues, and we have a representative sample of vehicles being measured under such conditions. Now, I know you're not so much interested in that today, but then what would be of your interest is that we are also measuring emissions, noise emissions of these vehicles by having developed this portable microphone. And we are carrying this microphone at a fixed distance from the exhaust of the vehicle, the white box that you see over there. And again, we do measurements on the road, and we try to understand those events that produce high sound levels. And here you see we also have the addition of our French colleagues from IFP in Paris. Just to give some indicative results, my talk today is clearly introductory. What you see in this graph is time in seconds, so we have a recording of approximately 10 minutes, a typical trip in an urban network of a motorcycle that you see on the top right corner of your screen. And the blue line is the sound level of this motorcycle as it is driven under realistic driving conditions, and you see that it can exceed momentarily 90 dBA in sound pressure, and we have identified these events with the digits that you can see, and there's an explanation of these digits. What are those events? So we see that they are mostly acceleration, basically, or events number 5 that you see they exceed even the 82 dB. They are just gear shifts. So we try to understand what kind of events cause these operation events, cause these high sound pressure levels. And then you see a different result here, a different motorcycle. So you see that we are not only limiting ourselves to more traditional motorcycles, we are only testing L5s and L3s and all different categories. And you see, again, a typical measurement in the city of Aachen or around the city of Aachen. Again, the recording of the sound of this motorcycle. Momentarily, it goes even beyond 100 dB. It reaches 105 dB. We get the probability profile of that. And you have seen we have only measured 12 vehicles on the street, 12 vehicles on the street, but we did these measurements because we try to understand what are those events, operation events that cause high sound levels. And then what we do, because then this is now under much more controlled conditions, we capture these events, we collect vehicles, we go under control conditions, and we measure those vehicles under these particular events: acceleration, gear changes, deceleration, acceleration, and gear change. We do it under control conditions on a test track on a tarmac, which is according to the ISO. We record emissions on board the vehicle, we record emissions with roadside microphones, and then we try to see also, again, how high sound levels these vehicles produce, and if the regulations that we currently have in place are enough to capture those events. And my colleague, Michael Dittrich, he has a presentation later on. He will go deeper into some of the results that we are collecting and explain to you some of the findings that we have from the project. The last type of measurements that we did was to actually capture, again, pollution and noise from vehicles operating on the streets. We went to 3 different cities in Europe. We installed roadside emission and noise collection devices, and we went to Leuven, to Barcelona, and to Paris. And we captured noise and emissions from approximately 500 motorcycles operating on the streets, trying to really understand what is going on there. And actually, what you can see, especially in Leuven, we also had the support of the police. So the police would stop most of the motorcycles that we were measuring, and we would ask the riders about the condition of the motorcycle. We would inspect the motorcycle to see whether it was tampered, and we can associate, let's say, degree of tampering with noise level of the motorcycle. So we believe we did what we could to really understand what is the actual condition of the fleet and what is the extent of the problem. I'm not in the position today to show you the final results of the project. The project has not ended yet. We are still collecting measurements, but I hope that I prove to you that we did what is technically possible to understand real-world operation emissions from actual vehicles on the actual fleet of different European countries. We developed devices, we developed methods to be in the position to capture these real levels. We are actually now calculating different scenarios, what can be done, how much it will cost to decrease noise, to decrease pollution of these vehicles. The project ends Q3 2025. I am sure that with the help of POLIS, we will have the opportunity to talk again, to be able to share with you our final results, and that these results will be useful for your further actions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leonidas. I think this was a very concise and clear introduction concerning the work that Lens is doing, and also I will talk very briefly at the end about a potential final conference. So I will just give you a very brief overview of the rest of the presentations. So I will give now the floor to the second part of our presentations on the different perspectives on noise pollution of L vehicles in the Netherlands, which will be moderated by Hester Walton from RIVM, and the first presentation will come from Tony Hardenberg. So yeah, please start, Tony, and share your screen.
Yeah.
While you're sharing your screen, also, if you have questions, please don't forget to write them in the chat. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, we are very happy that there is a scientific approach to this problem, as we are working on it for at least 10 years now. And so far, everyone said, well, you're just a couple of complaining citizens, and you have a problem with your ears, and you're a little bit sensitive. But it's not the case that it's our problem. It's really a real problem. The NEFOM is a Dutch Federation of Noise Pollution by Motorcycles, or motor vehicles, I should say. And we have about 100 citizen groups in the Netherlands that are joined in cities and on rural areas, in silence areas. It's everywhere, really. What does it mean? Well, it means that on sunny days and mostly the weekends, we have to remain inside, or we close our doors and windows. We cannot sit on our balconies. We must stop our conversation in our own garden, in our own balcony, and we become physically ill. There's nowhere to escape. Also, when we go somewhere else, there still is a lot of noise pollutions. And the coming weeks are for us terrible, even though there are holidays, but we already know what's going to happen. The physical reactions of noise pollution is not that my ears get irritated, it's my mind. All day there is a noise pollution. I have to be quiet. I have to wait until they are passing. And I get irritated, not just me. And you know that the next irritation is coming up, and in the next and the next, and there's nothing you can do about it. And people get heart disease and people die of this, which sounds vigorous, but it is really true. This is what's happening. It's not just our opinion as citizens, but these problems are now known and acknowledged, and there are studies about this. And here are just two examples of these studies, which you can read on your own. But there's lots and lots of information about this, so it's a real problem. I personally have been talking about this problem for more than 10 years, and as well as citizens, councils and other organizations says, well, you know, maybe it's a problem, maybe not. So what I did is I joined the Citizen Science and Noise program, which means I had to invest. I have to put a decibel meter in my own garden and measure what is my noise problem. And I was wondering myself, am I the problem myself, or is this really a problem? So these are the results from a Sunday in 2024. It measured from 7:30 to 1940, but it measures all day and all night. And it measures from 11 to 15 meters on a 30-kilometer road. And 11 to 15, that is because if you're going one direction, you're driving on the right side, so it's 11. And if it's going the other direction, it's 15 because you're driving the other way. It measures every 5 seconds. So, and it shows the peak noise in those 5 seconds. So you don't know if this is one vehicle or if this is 20 vehicles in 5 seconds passing by. And what we see is it's one in a day, it's more than 71 times 70 dB, but it doesn't mean it's 71 vehicles. It's a couple of hundred, but there's 71 peak noises. And 95 of this is motorcycles. I know this because I just have to look out of the window and see what is passing by again, and I see motorcycle, 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 no doubt about it. Well, here you see where the peaks are above 70 dB, and this is in the morning, 7:40, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Here you see the afternoon, and you see that it's getting busy around 12. And you see the number of peak levels that are coming up. And here you see there's even more and more. Here's a very loud one, which is about 90 dB measured at 11 meters, which means, I mean, this is really loud. And it goes on all day until I stopped at 8 o'clock, but at night there are some also. So here you get a good idea of what my day, if I would stay home or if I'm working in a garden, is like with sound. We wondered, why is there so much noise by motorcycles? And we think that we found an answer by a graph made by Mr. Dittrich from TNO. You see that the sound level of trucks is the green one. It goes down and down over the years, and it ends here at 75, 77 dB. You see that the sound level of motorcycles starts here at 85 and has almost not gone down. Why is that? Well, because the motorcycle producers say, well, it's not possible for us to be silent, and you know, there's no problem, so why should we do it? And you see the cars, regular cars, go down, 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 and they're under 70 now. So I mean, it is possible. What our targets as NAVM is this level, 70 dB for all vehicles under all conditions, measured at 7.5 meters, which is possible and is already there for a lot of vehicles. This is the standard that we would want to have implemented. In Amsterdam, the city of Amsterdam, the Medical Health Service says 20 years from now, noise is the main environmental issue. The other ones are solved. But 20 years from now, we still, if we don't do anything, we still have those old motorcycles which still make a lot of noise and are a big problem. They also said in noise, there's 1.3 million people seriously hindered, 600,000 sleep disturbances, and 100 kills a year. That means it really kills. And here you see how this works. You have sleep disturbance, your heart rate goes up because of the annoyance, blood pressure goes up, you have myocardial infarctions, and here it says deaths. Here you see the members of SOS Europe. The NAVM is just the Dutch part, but we have Germany, France, Belgium, Luxembourg, etc. And 290 citizen groups in 6 countries we have joined together. And here are some examples. That's my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. What are the questions?
Thank you, Tony. That was very nice presentation. I saw a question at the beginning of your presentation, so that may be for Leonidas, and that is about noise production and measurements that differ from noise pollution. Is the number of vehicles also taken into account? So either Leo or Leonidas can answer this question.
Yes,
Or,
this is
Tony.
correct. Of course, the noise level which is perceived by citizens, it also depends not on singular vehicles, but on the total fleet. But I think for that, my colleague Michael Dittrich has a presentation, and I would refer the question to him, because we do it by simulation, actually, during the last part of the project where we're doing the impact assessment of the different measures. So I think we should wait for Michael's presentation, and then maybe we go back to the question.
Okay, yeah, maybe also Nick can say something about that. I see another question from Charlotte Hessels. Are there examples of effective traffic measures that you can take for the problem apart from closing roads? Tony, I think you can answer that.
Well, I can, but also Michael Dittrich is going to talk about what are the actions. But I can say what's been done here. I mean, this is a silence area. It's a 30 kilometers road. So those are the 2 things already that our people say you should do. Well, it's done here. There have been road signs. There have been actions in the newspaper asking people to slow down, to make not much noise. And in 10 years, nothing has helped. So unfortunately, we came to the conclusion the only thing is ban loud vehicles. And that has not to be by closing the whole road, but it can be by just selecting the loud vehicles based on their license information, because there you can see how much money, how much noise they can make, like the dirty diesel engines in the cities, banning them, and ban all loud vehicles.
Okay, that's a pretty clear answer. I guess it's I'm checking the chat now. Tony, what is the legal status of your measurements? Did you do this by yourself or by a specialized company?
Yeah, That's a good question. These are certified measurement devices which have been tested by the RIVM, as you know, Hester. I think Nick will say something about that, but these are calibrated systems, and so they have high quality.
Okay. I guess that is a very nice bridge to the next presentation, and that will be done by Nick Mabjaia of National Institute of Public Health and the Environment, who is my colleague. Nick, can you take the floor?
Yes, I will also share my screen. Thank you, Hester. Yes, I hope you can see my screen now.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
fine.
Great. Yeah, so as Hester said, I'm Nick from the RIVM, that's National Institute of Public Health and the Environment in the Netherlands. And I will give a short presentation about citizen science and noise. And I hope to give you an idea of what's possible in terms of citizens' measurements of noise, of sound, and also what you can expect from low-cost sound level meters. Oh yeah, yeah. So this will be the overview. First, an introduction, a small bit about smartphones. Many people are interested, and then about DIY noise monitors, and then a short example of a study that we did with these monitors. What I'm talking about here is environmental monitoring. So monitoring noise, monitoring sound outside in the environment. That's also what we are interested in as an institute. As an institute, we measure noise, but also air quality and other different things with expensive systems. But we saw that more and more people are measuring themselves with cheaper systems, and often systems that they build themselves. So on the right side, you see a map of the Netherlands, and every dot is an air quality sensor. So there are people that have built an air quality sensor or bought a cheap air quality sensor, and they're sending live the data of the sensor. This is air quality, and in noise we also see that more and more people are doing this. The map of noise is not so not as filled as this map, but we think it's possible because these sensors are getting cheaper and the technology is getting better and better also. And we see this as part of a greater movement, and the movement of democratization of data. And what this means is that data or information about your environment is not in the hands of, not anymore only in the hands of institutions or in the hands of the government or engineering companies, but it's also in the hands of every citizen. So you have access to a lot of data about your environment, and data is even generated by citizens themselves. And I think that it's, we think that it's also really important for governments, for local governments, and even national governments to take these citizen measurements seriously, because they're a really valuable source of information. So on the bottom, you see a few examples of noise sensors, cheap noise sensors. First I will say something about smartphones real quick, because smartphones are like the easiest way to measure noise yourself. Almost everybody has a smartphone. There's a microphone in it, and it's pretty capable of measuring noise. So you only need an app to measure noise. And yeah, just a short summary of what you can expect from a smartphone. They are very good in measuring frequencies. So if you have if there's a tone and you want to know which frequency the tone is, a smartphone with an app will probably give you a really good estimate of which frequency it is. But if you want to measure noise levels, it comes a little bit more complicated. Right out of the box, most smartphones don't measure accurately. Some even measure like 30 dB too high or too low. Those big differences can be corrected just by calibrating. So then you could put a correction. But then still there can be some differences, and that all depends on the type of phone. In general, iPhones seem to do better than Android phones. And here's you see an example of what you can do with your phone measurement. This is the recording of a cat deterrent. It's a really high sound to scare away cats. And in this picture on the y-axis, you see the frequency. And in this case, you see that the cat deterrent makes a noise that is also audible by humans because it's less than 20 kilohertz. Yes, and then I'll go to the noise monitors because smartphones are really, really nice. But if you want to measure for a longer period, just as Tony showed us, if you want to measure outside, maybe for hours or days or weeks or years, then you need something else. The professional commercial devices usually are quite expensive, in the thousands of euros. But there are low-cost options. So you can build these yourself. That's why I call them DIY noise monitors. And so the goal here is a long-time monitor and monitoring outside. And we did a test of this type of sensors that were available in the Netherlands. And just to give you an idea of what you can expect from these type of sensors, here you see an overview of the sensors that were in our test. There were 7 different types, different builders, different designers. Some of them had the manual and software all online, so everybody can find it and build it themselves. Some of them had also air quality sensors or all different type of sensors. One even could detect helicopters. And then generally see that there's like a cheap housing or 3D printed housing. And there are different choices on microphones and interior components. So what did we see in our test? And these are sensors from the Netherlands, from builders in the Netherlands. And this test was a few years ago, 2022. So we saw that these were all quite stable. They could measure outside for a long period. They didn't drop out. So we measured it for a few months. So that was already a good thing. Then we saw that they were not always as user-friendly. That's one thing you can take into account if you work with maybe a local builder. Not everybody can always work with these, but some were really user-friendly. One example of the user-friendly ones are the sensors from Sensor.community. Sensor.community is an international organization of volunteers based started in Germany, and they have designs of air quality sensors and noise sensors online, so you can just build your sensor on those designs. And they also have this data platform. So if you build this, then the data automatically, and you put it in the on power, then the data automatically goes to their database. That also goes to our database, but yeah, it's good that it's stored somewhere. Yeah, and yeah, these were so nice that we even used them. We bought about 50 of them, or at least we ordered a company to build these for us because we thought they were so good, and they were low cost. So that's the strong thing about these ones. Then you can, yeah, for just a few €100 or even less than €100, you can have a noise sensor that otherwise would be in the thousands of euros. Then the accuracy is obviously what you're interested in. Yeah, in this graph, we see the different noise monitors. And on the y-axis, you see the deviation from the reference, the class 1 noise level meter. They were measuring outside for long periods of time. And the most important thing that we saw here was that some of them measured really well. So yeah, these were really cheap and easy to build. And this one, for example, measured on average at a 0 dB deviation. So after a month of measuring outside. Oh, and this is about 5-minute averages. So it's not 5 seconds, as Tony was showing, but a little bit longer, which helps comparing. Yeah, so this is really important. And what you also see, the vertical line shows the range. So 90% of the measurements were in that vertical range. So yeah, this one, this blue one will be really useful. You can do a lot of things with this. So, but we also see on the left side a few sensors that yeah, had a little bit more of deviation. And yeah, you might think, well, these are useless, 6 dB or even at times 10 dB difference. But we concluded that all of these sensors were fit for purpose, were fit for citizens to measure their own environment. And I just quickly want to note why. So for instance, say you live near train tracks and there are really heavy trains passing in the night, and you just want to objectively see when are they actually passing, and not only relying on your own subjective experience. Well, this is example of measurement from a citizen that lived near the same train track. And with the cheap sensor, you can clearly see when there's trains passing and what the impact is on the sonic acoustic environment where this person lives. Well, if you live here, you just want to see the trains. It doesn't matter if you have a 5 dB difference or 10 dB off. You will see the trains. You will have a good image of what is happening. And with this images like this, you can take them also to other people, just like Tony showed his measurements to you. You have an objective way of showing what you experience. Yeah, and then I come to a quick example, and that's about a study that we did into annoyance. So in this example, we had 20 of the cheap DIY sensors, and we were interested in annoyance by trains in a small village. It's called America, a small village in the Netherlands. And these people were annoyed, and they lived really close to the train tracks. So we wanted to know why are you, well, they wanted to know themselves also, why they were annoyed by some trains and not by other trains, and at some moments, what impacts all this. So we had these sensors, and we also had the app survey on their telephone. They could fill in a short survey 4 times a day for a week. And just an example. Here you see some measurements, and because the sensors were placed on locations along the track, we could clearly identify when a train was passing. So that was interesting. And what's nice in this case is that they also gained some attention. They came in, they had interviews in the newspapers, on the television, even the national television. And that was just because people were taking time to make measurements, and we took them seriously as national institutes. So yeah, that also can be a goal when you're want to set up a network of sensors. Yes, and so yeah, to keep it brief, I will finish here. What we saw is that yes, you can measure noise yourself. It doesn't have to be expensive, and we see that these cheap sensors can also perform really well. What's important is to think about your goals. What do you want to measure? Because then you know what type of sensor you need. And I also want to just add that it's really nice to measure, really important, but it's also interesting to measure the annoyance, so to measure the experience of the people. Because yeah, you can see people like walking noise sensors. Everybody hears noise, everybody experiences noise, and that's what it's about actually. So that's also a thing to consider. Yeah, thank you very much. This was my presentation.
Thank you, Nick, for a nice presentation. I saw one question in the chat about the smartphones. Do you have any suggestions for apps that people can use?
Yes. Yes. I don't have a list right here. I could put some in the comments, but there are many apps. Yeah, and it differs. Some apps are only for iPhone, some only for Android. Yeah, I can put some in the chat later if you want. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I see already people giving suggestions also in the chat. I guess it could also differ from country to country. I'm myself involved in the Dutch project National Noise Measurement Day, which is the 30th of April. And there will be a special app for that, but it doesn't work in other countries. So if there are no further questions in the app or in the chat, then I guess it will be a great time now to start with the next presentation, which is from TNO. And it's from Michael Dittrich. Can you take the floor?
Good morning, everyone. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, that's not in full screen.
Yeah.
Yes, good.
If you
Thank
can
you very
put it in
much.
presenter mode, yeah.
Okay, so good morning again, and my name is Michael Dittrich. I'm from TNO in the Netherlands. TNO is a research institute, and I work at the Department of Acoustics, and I've been working on the issue of loud vehicle noise in the last 8 years. My overall expertise is machinery noise, environmental noise, and noise control, and traffic noise, of course. So I've just compiled a presentation today to talk about the mitigation options of loud vehicle noise. And I will give a brief introduction and then talk about the causes and give some examples and observations. And then, of course, some mitigation options and a few words about noise cameras, and then conclusions and outlook. So I don't have to repeat it really, but just to summarize, so loud vehicles lead to many complaints and significant impact on residents along affected routes, and that's both in urban areas and rural areas. And there's a lot of petitioning going on. And what we know, of course, is that high noise levels of individual vehicles have minor effect on long-term average exposure levels, which are usually called LDEN in terms of the legislation. So that makes them more difficult to deal with in legal terms. So in any case, people are looking for solutions, so councils, municipalities, and interest groups, and governmental authorities, of course. And so it's both technical solutions and policy solutions, of course. So in the past years, between 2020 and 2023, we did monitoring campaigns in 4 Dutch cities, so Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Utrecht, and The Hague, at 3 locations in each city. And we did this in some detail to register the vehicles and look at things like vehicle behavior and the types of vehicle and things like that. In addition to that, we're also involved in the Lens project, which Leonidas also mentioned earlier, and in particular looking at the mitigation aspect for noise of L vehicles. And more recently, we did a study on the feasibility of noise cameras in the Netherlands. So a few words about the causes of increased noise impact. So obviously there's more vehicles on the road, so the number of vehicles on the road is always growing in general. We often have a higher building density and increased noise sensitivity of the people living there. There's a low enforcement of vehicle noise. Vehicle power has increased quite often. There is the aspect of driving behavior, so things related to vehicle acceleration, but also speeding above the speed limit. And of course, vehicle modifications, so things like exhaust changes, but also tuning methods. And what is quite clear, there's a wide offer of products and services to increase power and noise of vehicles. And here you see on the right an example of all the different possibilities for modifying motorcycles. I'm sure there's more that you can come up with. But on the top here, you see an example of an alternative sports exhaust on a motorcycle, which probably, I'm not 100% sure in this case, but probably is producing more noise. On top of that, new vehicles are not necessarily quieter than previous models in practice. So there's multiple causes, which makes it difficult to deal with, of course. Now, just to give you a few examples of what we've measured in the past, I do have some sound here, but it's a bit too complicated to play it. But this is the kind of data we've collected for individual loud vehicle events. So here you see the time signal on the top left, sound spectra in the middle, and spectrograms on the right. And at the bottom, you see all of the sound details of the vehicle, and then you see the vehicle data. And at the bottom, you see a picture, anonymized picture. And here you see an example of 104 dBA in the street where there's lots of residents living. Next example is a simply revving motorcycle. So going at a very low speed, 30 kilometers an hour in the street. And this is only a fairly short burst of sound, but it's a very high noise level. So, yeah. Can you hear this at all?
We can hear you fine.
You could hear the sound too?
Oh, no.
No.
We didn't hear
No.
the sound.
Okay, so that doesn't work. Okay. Never mind. So another very good example is loud cars, of course. So we have motorcycles and mopeds and all sorts of light vehicles. But of course, cars are also a problem. It's only a very small percentage, but there's enough of them to be a problem. And one of the common sounds is backfire noise. You also have tuned cars, of course, which produce high noise levels. So backfire noise is very loud and very annoying, of course. And it's hard to pinpoint it, but it's one of the things that also need to be dealt with. So what are the observations that we saw in the 4 cities? So a number of things. Firstly, many speeding vehicles above the speed limit, which doesn't help the noise, but also high noise levels at low speeds. It's very clear that motorcycles are the loudest, producing the highest noise levels. There's a lot of show behavior, of course, which can be considered as completely unnecessary noise, like backfire, fast, noisy acceleration, for example, near traffic lights. Certain brands of vehicle are very common and frequent. It's not only luxury sports cars, but also smaller tempered vehicles. And in terms of the locations where the loud noise is occurring, it's routes to recreational destinations, cafe streets, long straight city roads, and near crossings. And in some cases where you have rented vehicles like quads, you can also get a localized noise problem. And then, of course, you have canyon streets with high buildings on either sides, which cause reflections. And the point is, the busier the road is and the more complex the situation, the harder it is to correctly identify the vehicles. So what can be done about this? So there's a whole load of things you can do. So in 2020, TNO made a report for the Dutch Ministry of Infrastructure and Environment, and developed a measures matrix. So a whole list of noise control measures which could be applied from different regimes. So things you can do to the road, things you can do about enforcement. So what we came up with for the 4 cities was, first of all, the speed limit to 30 kilometers an hour where it can be done. So it's not possible everywhere. A warning sign for drivers, either static or electronic. Access restrictions for vehicle types or for individual vehicles. More improved or automatic enforcement, which could be a noise camera, for example. Targeted enforcement based on hotspots and times. And attended enforcement by the police or other authorities could be improved by the following list of audible indications. So in the Netherlands, in fact, you're allowed to fine a driver who is just making unnecessary loud noise, as long as you can prove it and it's pretty clear. And these are the obvious indications. So if you can hear it from a long way off, if it's producing pops and bangs, if there's unnecessary loud engine revving or loud acceleration, speeding, of course, in combination with noise, but also visible modifications such as a missing DP killer or a very small exhaust. Here on the right hand, you see histograms of the speed distribution at 50 kilometers roads where we did the measurements. And you can see that about a third of all the vehicles are actually speeding. So then we come to noise cameras in the Netherlands and their feasibility. This is just one of the many options, of course, to deal with the issue. The problem is you can't put them everywhere. And they have a price tag, of course. There's a lot of testing going on at the moment in Europe. There's several systems available, and I'm showing you some of them here. So what we did in this study was to just review the required functionality for noise cameras. And we also talked to all the suppliers and different authorities. We had a look at the available systems and pilot tests which are ongoing. And we also looked at the legal aspects. And one of the things is that you need to overcome some of these before you can introduce automatic fining. So the obvious purpose of these cameras is not only to register, but also to potentially use them for fining. So what we came up with in this study was to recommend to prepare the legal basis and to gain experience with pilot projects and to basically follow the same path as is done for speed cameras, because the methodology that you could follow is pretty much the same. The only difference is you have to measure the noise, of course. So, and there's different levels of implementation. So here you see some examples. On the bottom left, you see simple warning signs, which are rather voluntary, I would say. So it just is basically asking people to drive more quietly. The systems on the right are different commercially available systems, which to some extent can actually register the vehicle and get its number plates and identify where the noise is coming from. And I think the bottom line is here that any of these systems will have a certain success rate in accurately identifying noise or the loud vehicle. So there's always going to be some kind of manual assessment, but this is possible. Okay, so this is also done for speed cameras too. So coming to a conclusion, in the Netherlands, we've done loud vehicle monitoring in 4 cities and provided insight into the causes and possible mitigation measures. The loudest vehicles are motorcycles, quads and 3-wheelers, followed by cars and mopeds. The key causes are driving behavior and vehicle modifications, which also give you the suggestion towards the potential solutions. So these can be either in terms of changing roads, influencing the vehicles and drivers, and improved enforcement. In the LENS project, we've actually identified the main driving conditions at which vehicles are loud, and some of these are easy to detect. And importantly, we've also built up insight into vehicle modifications, detection methods for tampering, mitigation solutions, and impact analysis. And for the noise cameras in the Netherlands, we've concluded that these are possible, but some changes are still required. And also system certification, pilot projects, and integration into the daily enforcement process are required. So thank you for your attention, and I welcome any questions. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Michael. This is a very comprehensive presentation. There was some discussion going on in the chat about whether it is legally possible to ban certain or to ban motorcycles from roads. And you showed a lot of other legal possibilities. What do you think is the best?
Yes, I mean, there's 2 ways. I mean, there's a lot more to be told about this, and I have some reports and presentations which I'm happy to share the links of if people are interested. But there's 2 main directions. One is if you say, okay, a vehicle, whatever it is making unnecessary noise and it's too loud, that can be fined, okay? At least in the Netherlands. It can also be, in principle, taken off the road. If the vehicle has been tampered, or if it has a roadside enforcement test, which is done by a police officer with a calibrated microphone, then that can also lead to a fine, or it can also lead to prohibition for going on the road until the vehicle has been reapproved. And I think here's part of the issue, of course, because a lot of vehicles have been modified. But yes, it is possible for them to be called up and not allowed to drive until the vehicle has been reapproved.
Okay, and do you think there is a need for new legislation, or is it a matter of applying?
It's both. I think a better application of the existing legislation would be a big help. And the problem is there, of course, that the existing enforcement system is a lot of work. And of course, you can't be everywhere, and you have a very limited manpower to do it. So if there's automated systems, that would already be a big step forward. They should probably be mobile and not fixed just at one place. And on top of that, the enforcement by police should be simplified so that it's much easier to do.
Okay, thank you very much. I guess there's a lot more to
say
yes. About all this, but maybe at the end of the workshop we have more time for that.
Yeah.
And I guess it's now time to move on to the experiences of three citizens groups from the Netherlands and Germany. And I would like to give the floor to Jantine Leeflang from the citizens group in Drechterland. Can you take the floor, Jantine?
Yeah, thank you very much. I will try to share the screen. You see my presentation now?
Yes, we see.
Yeah. I will try to set it in presentation mode. Yeah. I have to go back to the first sheet. So I've noticed that our friends of the MAG have joined this webinar. A short introduction. I'm living at the Zuidendijk. That's a dike that's laid around the former Zuiderzee. And it's called now the Markermeer and the IJsselmeer because it's turned from saltwater to freshwater. And this is one of the favorite circuits for motorcyclists. It's the perfect circuit for motorcycling because it's 20 kilometers with a nice view. On one side you have the water and on the other side you have those nice very old farms and a nice landscape. There are no traffic lights, no traffic intersections, but the effect is that the cyclists and walkers are blown away. We have quite often very dangerous situations. It's a very small road. Some places it's only 2.5 meters wide. This small road with very different speeds in the same small area. And the other traffic is traveling by with 80 to 120 kilometers an hour. While you are walking on this dike. And also, of course, we have problems with the noise. And we have no damping effects from vegetation. And we have constant noise of motorcyclers fading in and fading out because you can hear they're coming at the beginning of the dike and you can hear them going away at the end of the dike. And this is also a picture of a nice summer day at our dike, and you see that a lot of people are enjoying the view from our dike, and the motorcyclists are also passing by. Our dike is laid between a part of a national quiet area, so the restriction is 35 decibels, but it's excluded, the traffic noise is excluded from this regulation. That's a problem. Also, the Zuidendijk is a historical monument built by Floris V. And we're sandwiched between Natura 2000, Nature 2000. That means there is a habitat directive. And also NNN, that's the former ecological main structure that we had in the Netherlands. And we also have a special landscape status. We had a weekend ban for motorcyclists, but we had also a court case that was brought up by the MAG, who was also joining this webinar I saw 5 minutes ago. We had a test phase during the COVID period, and then the municipality decided to have a weekend ban for 2 years, based on an example at the dike of Lopik. Been there and studied their case, but that's a very, very long dike of 40 or 50 kilometers, but only 8 kilometers is the motorcyclists are banned. But we had a problem. The lobby club of the motorcyclists, the MAG, went to court. The first court said that the ban was fine, and then they did go to a higher court. So despite the previous court ruling of Lopik, the highest council said that it was not legal anymore, because Drechterland, the city where we live, had not properly studied the noise effect It's true that Lopik had a better study. So it was not really the ban that was the problem, but the way our city studied the noise effect. So there came another research. The problem was there were no objective data from the measurements that they did. There was only a survey for the residents living close to the dike, and based on that, the Drechterland decided to put on the ban on the dike. And Lopik had more objective data like traffic counting, detailed study, etc. And they said that the peak moments with disruptive effects were for residents. So we have motorcycling noise Groundhog Day again. The ban is they have took it away. So they had to do a new study. And the problem with this study, when it was finished, that they could not point out there was a problem anymore, because the way of measuring noise with a 5-minute average away the problem, because there are peak moments, very loud, also shown in the presentation of Michael Dittrich, up to 80 or 100 dBs, but it's too short to exceeding the noise limits. So according to the most recent study here, the conclusion was that we are living in a very quiet area with a qualification good or very good. Well, that's not the way we feel it, like living here in the weekends. Like Tony said, we have to go away to escape from the noise, because there's no way you can enjoy your weekend when you're staying at home when it's nice weather. So there are no noise limits set by policy or the law for peak moments. So the problem is more or less solved on paper, and we are still have a problem with deafening silence. How do you say that? That's how I say it in Dutch. This is not in Dutch, sorry. We have now still another option, because the noise problem for motorcyclists is a non-existing problem according to the research. So we're trying to persuade Drechterland to study the options like only local traffic. It's called uitgezonderd bestemmingsverkeer, or cutting our dike into pieces. So it's no circuit anymore, because we have the luckily position that nobody really needs our dike for traveling from A to B. So only 12 residents really need the dike to go to their home, but other people don't need our dike for traveling from A to B. Also, we are considering a specific time frame that we have in other cities close to Amsterdam, that small villages are closed for traffic during the traffic jams. Well, we consider this for our dike, or we cut the dike into pieces for different parts with one way, so it's also not a circuit anymore. But yeah, we still have the problem that it's no problem when you do the research and the peak moments are averaged away. So we joined the NAVOM because we think the only solution for this problem is that the 70 dB limitation will solve the problem. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jantine. This is an impressive story indeed. And I hope you can find a solution somehow. There's a lot of things going on in the chat, but I don't see any questions about your presentation, but a lot of discussion. And so I guess we can leave that there. And we can go on to the next presentation, which is from the citizens group in Nordschwarzwald by Volker Hahn.
Yes, here I am. I'm Volker Hahn, living in a town called Gaggenau, which is near Baden-Baden or Karlsruhe. And the motto of my talk, I don't have a presentation, it's just a talk, is a Black Forest Eldorado for bikers. You could add noisy bikers. And the co-activist, created a phrase saying, many people or many citizens live in the middle of the bikers' fun. What a fun for the bikers. Well, now I just want to talk about Germany in 2 or 3 sentences. In Germany, there are about 900 hotspots registered, mainly in rural areas. And they are registered on the website of Bundesverband gegen Motorradlärm. In English, it would be Federal Association Against Traffic Noise, which I'm also a member of. Well, in particular, you have situations like winding roads to beautiful and idyllic destinations, mainly in the German middle range mountain areas, such as the Black Forest, the Eifel, which is close to the Netherlands, Saxon, Switzerland near Dresden, Weserbergland, that's in northern Germany near Paderborn, Taunus, north of Frankfurt, and of course, also very important, the Alpine foothills. Now, my personal situation is here in Gaggenau, where I live. It's in the northern part of the Black Forest. And my personal experience is the following. When I was 30, I built a house, and 10 years ago, I gave this house, which is the best thing that you can have, passed it on to my daughter and her family. And so we bought a very nice penthouse flat. And what we did not consider was that it was very close to a T-junction. And at this T-junction, this was just a way to a very popular motorcycle route. And of course, at the T-junctions, the motorcycles, and often it was groups of motorcycles, they had to stop. And while they were stopping, to giving way to other traffic, they always had to rev up, like you all know that. And if you've got 20 Harleys, it's a hell of a noise. And then when they started, they speeded up, and it looked like they're having races. Anyway, so after a while, especially my wife, she couldn't stand this anymore. And so we sold this flat at a considerable loss. And this is what happens to many house owners, that the value of their real estate becomes considerably less. So we moved to another place away from the motorcycle routes in the middle of our town. And here we have also a noise problem, not so much from motorcycles, but more from posers, because very close there is a cafe where they meet, and sometimes they it's especially at the weekends, and then they even in the middle of the night at 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, they drive up and down the road. In America, this was it was called cruising, when you wanted to show up with the girl that you admired or whatever. Anyway, and very close to this road lives a friend of ours. He has got 2 little children, and these 2 children, they wake up often at night. And of course, the parents have to calm them down, have to, and of course, both parents don't get enough sleep, the children don't get enough sleep, and it's scientifically proven that this is a health risk. And so they also consider moving away from this place. It's the same as we did, but they live a bit closer to the street. Well, then of course, we talked to the police authorities here in Gaggenau. They're very friendly, and they are open to all our complaints. But what they say, they can hardly do anything. Especially at the weekends. They have not enough manpower, to turn up when somebody asks for controls, and this sanctioning noise is also difficult. You know, how loud is it? You know, we in the other presentations we heard that there are, of course, you can have your mobile phone, you know, and show this on your mobile phone. But this is nothing what the police can do with it. And so the only thing what they can do, the authorities, is install speed limits. Of course, this mitigates a little bit the problem, but it's not at night, you know.
Volker, we cannot hear you so good anymore. Is there anything with your noise that...
Your microphone has changed a little bit.
We cannot...
Maybe try to mute yourself and unmute yourself. This could maybe fix it. Yeah, now you're muted.
Okay, now I've started again.
No, maybe I suggest that you will try to fix it. You can adjust your audio by clicking on the button next to the audio symbol, and maybe we go to the next speaker, and then maybe return to you afterwards with your final statements, maybe.
Yeah, well,
We can't really hear you properly, unfortunately, at the moment.
Oh,
Now try again. Hello?
yeah, hello.
Yeah, now it
Yeah,
works again.
Igor.
Yeah,
Well,
okay,
I
perfect.
yeah, well, I have frequent web conferences and never happened. This has never happened. Okay, you hear me again. So that's good.
Yes.
All right, good. Anyway, so this is the situation just in front of our house. An experience of a friend of ours who lives at this popular road is that that you have this noise mainly in the summertime, spring and summertime, you know, at rainless evenings, you know, during the week, and of course at the weekends. And the problem is mainly groups of motorists who partly drive up and down this spectacular road a number of times, which is forbidden in Germany, but it's not sanctioned because it's not controlled. Well, another experience of an hotelier at the Alpine foothills. He has a 4-star hotel, very good, been even there, and he complained, and his guests complain about this noise of motorcycle traffic from spring to autumn, and a number of guests refrain from booking again at this hotel due to this. So there's a great loss of potential guests and, of course, loss of profit. Another situation that's worth considering is the situation in the southern part of the Black Forest. They have heavy traffic, motorcycle traffic at the weekends, with large numbers of Swiss and French bikers. Especially Swiss biker clubs, they hire barns and empty sheds across the border to park their bikes there, and they come for the weekend and they just cruise around the Black Forest. And in 2018, the government headquarters of Freiburg, which is, the southern part of the Black Forest, they asked the communities to name places of silence, you know, places of silence. But at good weather, there were no places that met the criteria. So there are no places of silence. And these French and Swiss bikers, they like the southern part of the Black Forest because there are few traffic controls. And if they are caught and with a violation of the traffic rules, the fines are very low. And there was one guy who on television, he said, "This small fine is worth my hobby." Okay. Well, and in Freiburg, for instance, there is one road closed, but not because of the noise, but because of the frequent motorcycle accidents. So it's always the accidents that have to happen that some measures are taken by the police. And now the Ministry of Baden-Würtemberg, which is has a green minister, has had a green minister for 5 years now, well, for more than 5 years, 8, 9 years already. They had a project on noise registration of 100 hotspots in Baden-Württemberg from May to October in 2020 and 2021. At weekdays, the motorcycles, 55% were louder than 85 dB, and 33 louder than 90 dB. Weekends, it's a little bit higher, 80 and 95. No, 91, sorry, 5% louder than 90 dB. So what is the result? Political consequences, hardly any, except speed limits. Noise is difficult to sanction because there is no noise limit, like for instance 85 dB. And so the most important thing is that the politics have to set a speed limit. And then another aspect of the whole thing is that the motorcyclists are so well linked, cross-linked, so they can avoid being caught by the police, because if there is a control anywhere, they pass it on via mobile phones, and so yeah. Well, what we need would be, as was shown before, HIDRAS, or the noise radars, and of course a set limit. And so the consequence is that it's necessary to tackle the problem at the root. There should be other common admission regulations in Europe. The UNECE are needed. Probably all of you know how they test, and this is completely different from the real practice on the roads. And another general problem is that so many people are exposed to high traffic noise. They have given up protesting because they think that it's of no use. Nothing really happens to reduce traffic noise. On the contrary, sound, this is a euphemistic term meaning noise, especially at motorcycles, is a sales argument. And as long as people want to drive with their loud motorcycles, and it's not sanctioned, there's hardly anything to do. Well, so coming back to my motto, many people live in the middle of the bikers' fun. What a joy for the bikers. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Volker. Very interesting and comprehensive view. And I see there is a lot of conversation in the chat, which is about why the perspective of the motorcyclists are not addressed in this meeting. But I would like to stress here that this meeting is specifically to show off the perspective of the people who are suffering from the noise. And there are other meetings where the industry and motorcyclists can have their contribution. And since we are still very well on schedule, but we have no time for other questions, I would like to go to the presentation from Amersfoort, and that is by Koos Dirksen. Can you take the floor, Koos?
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Hester. Can everyone hear and see me perhaps?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, super. So yeah, my name is Koos Dirksen. I'm a citizen of the city of Amersfoort. I have a house and an office next to a busy road. And well, it's clear here that not the normal traffic, but intentional excessive traffic noise is the main cause of noise nuisance here. And I will not say too much because a lot have been said already about the nature of this problem. I often compare it with someone coming by to fart in your face. There is an abuse aspect to it. It's not just the noise, it's also a psychological aspect. A hug can be nice, but it can also be physical abuse, and there is an abuse aspect to this problem as well. I started a civil initiative about 2 years ago now with a few other guys, and the problem is far from solved here, but we are really quite happy with the progress. I think this is in large part due to the very helpful people that we met along the road. But I also think maybe there's some merit in the approach we took. So I'd like to share a little bit about that in my presentation. So I will share my screen. So we started a civil initiative against what we call excessive traffic noise. We call it Stop Verkeerslawaai Amersfoort. So I will say a little bit how we went from our annoyance to action. I will say a few words about the novel solution that was discovered by the city of Amersfoort, and also look at what might be next steps that could be taken here. So the temptation was very big to sit together with the guys and to say, hey, how should this be solved? And immediately everyone has lots of ideas. But we decided not to do that, because the risk is that you become the annoyance yourself if you shout too loud about a solution. So the road to a solution, we thought, is a little bit different. First, we need to gather citizen support. We live in democratic society, so you need to prove that it is a lot of people who experience this a problem. To gather political support, to gather support from the municipality, and they, in the end, are in a position to actually do something. But before we got started, we made sure we were well prepared. So we formed a core group. So we had some people to take on the different actions. We wrote a manifesto, not just with the problem and the solutions, but also describing why is it a problem. So what's the problem? Why is the problem? What do we want to achieve? So something about solution, of course, because if you get people to support you, you need to be able to say, hey, I can speak on behalf of those people. So they need to be able to understand what it is we are going to say. So we do also look ahead how we want to achieve it. But the main attention is to describe what is the problem, why is it a problem. And we set up a website where we publish this manifesto, and we put a response option so people were able to reach out to us and to declare their support for this civil initiative. We also set up a dedicated mail account and an email platform that you can send easily out mass mailings. Although our first task was to gather citizen support, the first action was actually to do a pre-alignment with what we could call a champion within the politics, within the local politics, to say, hey, this is our plan, this is how we want to approach this. Do you have any ideas for us that will help the politics to pick up the problem when the time is ready? And that was actually very helpful. We took a part of that input to fine-tune the manifesto that we wrote. Then to gather the citizen support, we prepared different channels. It's like, you need to do promotion to find the people. So we had connections already with some people in different areas of the city. We had connections with the traditional media and with the social media. And of course, we picked the right time, which is the spring and early summertime, when there is already some news about other cities, other locations with this problem in the media. So the local media are relatively, quite eager actually. If there's something in this area happening here, they're happy to report about it. Because it has to become like a snowball, gathering inertia and growing as it goes down the hill. So everything really needs to be prepared before you go live with this. Once we had gathered this group of supporters, email list, we went back to politics, and then, of course, the next step is for the politicians in the city council to take our message and to call the city to go to action. Then when the city went to action, again, we had to suppress our, natural response to push a solution. We really step back and say, hey, we have to let the guys do their work. We can offer our support and ideas, but everyone has his own job and we need to respect that. So not to push too much. And actually, we were very happy with the result, because we gathered support of more than 800 households in the city of Amersfoort. And this group is still growing. We showed up with just over 130 people in the city hall. This is a huge number. I think it may be it was completely full, and it's one of the largest attendances to any meeting there. that helped to get very broad political support. There was not any party against doing something against this problem. So the problem was put on the radar. We have good contacts with politicians who are still actively thinking what to do, how to solve it. And they gave a very strong call for action. Then with the city, with the municipality itself, we have very constructive cooperation. So we have close lines, and it's very, very helpful. And they actually came up with a novel solution. If we had pushed our problems, our solutions, this solution may never have been found. So we are also very happy with that. I will say a little bit more about that, but I think the main takeaway from this is that it's very important for civil initiatives to arise and to put this problem on the radar. There is a huge silent minority of people. We live in a democratic society, and there is really a potential for a political support which is untapped so far. I'm also a little bit active in some political party, and on all levels we were successful in putting this problem into the programs for local, national, but also for EU programs. Then about the solution which was found in Amersfoort, that is to do BOA enforcement of R522. Okay, that needs some explanation. What is R522? It was already mentioned by Michael. This is a little bit different code. This is the actual violation code. And the violation is to cause unnecessary noise with a vehicle. That can be because of behavior. It can be completely legal vehicle with weird behavior, excessive behavior, or it can be use of a very loud exhaust. The fine is actually quite high. I think this is the amount including the administrative fees, but this fine is on the same level as when you drive through a red traffic light. So it is a very serious violation. It can be discovered, or it can be administered by means of observation. It's not necessary to do a measurement of the actual noise emission. Just observation of a police officer that it is excessive is enough to write down this fine. The vehicle does have to be stopped if reasonably possible, but if there is a good reason why it was not possible and it is documented, the fine can also be written to the license plate number. And it is normally enforced by the police. But it can also be enforced by a BOA. A BOA is, it's a Dutch term, but it effectively means it's a special enforcement officers. They are employed by the city. So they're controlled by the city directly. Normally they do general order control, and they can give fines for non-criminal offenses like traffic fines or cycling where someone is not allowed to cycle. More of these general tasks. The advantage is, of course, that you're not taking away police from chasing criminals, which they have limited capacity. So this is a relatively cheap and effective and efficient way to enforce this regulation. So Amersfoort has confirmed the legal possibility to do this kind of enforcement, and they have also trained, because that is necessary, of course, they know how to do it, trained 15 special enforcement officers to be able to do this. We think it's a very good step. The training has been done the last winter, so we still need to see the effects, but we feel it is a great step to solving this problem. Now, as a next step, yes.
Can you round up really quickly? I think this is a very inspiring talk, but
okay, I can. It's in 1 minute. We get a lot of people asking, what can we do? Or people want to go on the street and pull motorcyclists from the bikes. People get really fed up. We want to do this constructively. There's still limited force. Many citizens can see these offenses. We want to involve them in the solution. People can file a police report, but then a lot of time goes into the police calling back the people who filed the reports. It's also proven that with regard to traffic violations, generally, a letter by the police can already have great effect. So what we want to tried to put together is a reporting center for noisy vehicles, where citizens can report license plate and the police then can take action from there in ways which are already mentioned before. Thank you, Hester. That was my last slide.
Yeah, thank you very much, Koos, for this really positive and constructive and inspiring presentation. It's a very nice presentation to close off this citizens' contribution. And without any further ado, I would like to go on to the next presentation by Jürgen Steeger, who represents majors from the Eifel region in Germany. So we go to the perspective of governments.
Okay, so thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. First of all, I'm happy to present to you the view of the people who are mostly tasked by the citizens to do something about it, the majors. The next 10 minutes I'd like to use to not necessarily focus on more sophisticated analysis views. It's more about reality after, in our case, the silent rider community in the Eifel region, after having 6 years of experience of what could be done and what could not be done in the whole aspect. It might be to some extent, sometimes be provocative, but that's reality in the year 2025. So let's simply start off. It's silent rider community. It's a community about majorly the majors in the Eifel region. The Eifel region is highly popular, particularly for Dutch bikers going east and going further into the Cologne-Düsseldorf region and into the Belgische Land region to have fun biking on these hilly roads, which offer a lot of opportunities. First message is, after 6 years, the trend as such about noise is not going down, it's increasing. Simple facts and statistic facts in life are, in Germany, we've got 5 million bikes out there, motorcycles out there. And believe it or not, you know, the typical car average age is something about 8 years. The typical motorcycle bike in Germany is 19 years old. That tells you a story about what should be done at what place. Doing something in Europe about the releasing new motorcycles will help and should be done, but we also have to respect these old vehicles where bikers tend to show us paperwork that simply says, okay, I'm allowed to have this sort of noise out there. So let's not ignore that fact in life that has to be attached. So that is a trend going on. And even going forward, it says, while it's a heavy burden on the citizens out there, the effect is going to increase each year by 5 to 6% more motorcycles on the road. So it's not really encouraging. We have tried various measures in the 6 years, and let's simply share in short, simple terms the effects that we have experienced, what can be done. And in summary, before I even start to say, the toolbox that a typical mayor in Germany has is fairly empty, if not completely empty. Let me simply show you, and it's only an excerpt of things that we have been trying, and there's only 10 things that I'm mentioning right now to show you some experience. Quite often, even today, has been discussed the question of why don't you close roads? From a legal aspect in Germany, plenty of cases where it has been said, okay, no, that cannot be done. There has not been any commune in Germany that has been successful in closing roads. One aspect, which is the legal aspect. The other aspect is obviously, let's be careful. We've got a community out there of motorcycles and their riders. And I'm simply saying that as critically important. It's all motorcycle noise is about a combination of a technical aspect and a human aspect. And we have to attack both aspects in there. And simply take a machine, a bike that has been designed to be silent or not too loud. If you link it to a driver, there's also that is showing empathy and is socially applicable, and simply saying, I don't want to disturb people, that tells you it's the problem as such has been designed for a particular group of motorcycle drivers who have got a loud machine. Simply, if you've got a motorcycle that has been designed very loud and you link it to a driver that wants freedom of sound, you're in shit, you're in hell. And that is exactly why we're saying, okay, let's be careful about not closing roads for everybody, but let's be very distinct of excluding those guys and machines that cause the real problem. So we've tried it. Legally, it's not possible, but let's be very distinctive. We have to shut down the roads for people who are simply overdoing. Item number 2 is, we obviously have been looking at that project that goes on in Austria, the Tyrol project. I think everybody's aware of that. And also there's a message is, with the German laws, you cannot do it. Whether that's the final story, we don't know. It's simply a compromise. It's a reasonable compromise, but so far, legally, it cannot be done. Thirdly, quite often it's said, okay, you know about these noise displays. You're driving by and you get a message, okay, cool it down, not that much noise. Often people are saying that it's very effective, but just take this Harley driver who's just coming out of the Bavaria region, have to an aftermarket supplier that is simply having a marketing message that says, okay, our sound system gives you the ultimate freedom in your life. If he has just invested 6,000, 7,000 euros into that muffler, he won't be affected by this noise display and cool down. That is simply impossible. So the effect in real life is extremely limited of these noise displays. Next item, Europe says, okay, just do the noise action plans, the Lärmaktionsplans, as we call it in Germany. Yeah, nice idea. But as long as it's statistically measured only based on average sound levels, not on the peak levels, it doesn't give you any sort of real effect in real life. People are saying, okay, if I can hear a motorcycle coming in 2 kilometers away, I'm hearing it already now. A noise action plan, local noise action plan doesn't get you anywhere. Next item is, okay, get more police on the road. Yeah, we've heard it so often in these 2 hours before. Police, yes, but do they have the manpower? Do they have the equipment? And does every policeman really want to do their job? Because a lot of policemen like motorcycle driving. It's also about motivation. Careful. But the main argument is capacity. We don't have the capacity for these sort of actions. And we have not experienced that sort of motivation by a lot of policemen. Sanctioning, fines out there, as long as we're talking about a 2-digit amount of fine for doing something wrong as a motorcycle driver, I mean, it doesn't help. It's paying out of your wallet. It really doesn't move the needle in reducing noise. Own liability, identifying the guy, the owner who's really responsible for that machine in Germany. Maybe it's the only country in Europe without having any means of doing something about that. It needs something to be changed in there. We heard about speed limits. Speed limits, just imagine a Harley Davidson driving at 30 kilometers an hour with an improved aftermarket engine. It doesn't help you anyway. It will kill you. You may feel like you're living close to an airport. Noise radars, obviously something we're looking at. We have exposed our federal governments to that, our national governments to that. The overall message is, okay, yeah, let's think about it, but issues, and typical German argument is, what about data protection issues? Nice idea, but yeah, maybe we should be doing something about that, but not really with a lot of motivation behind that. Last but not least, and that might be interesting for you, is noise stickers, a project that has been started. We're simply saying, okay, if bikers want to prove with the paperwork that they've got a not too noisy engine, they get a plaquette on the motorcycle, which may help in future if we ever think about restricting access to some of the areas. That may help. But obviously, this is something that is still under review, and we don't know what the new government in Germany will be doing with that idea. So in a nutshell, we tried so many things. None of that really did work. We have to find new tools, and we have to get a new, more support in future from all angles. And the old arguments is still out there. Safety aspects in daily life always beat the health aspects. Police will only be out there if safety arguments need to be proved, but noise is not really the main argument out there with the people who could help. So,
Okay. Thank you, Jürgen.
Yeah, I'll come to a conclusion right now. The conclusion in there is our toolbox is empty. There needs to be something to be done. Primarily, let's stop this finger-pointing exercise where we as a commune have to go to our federal sort of states in federal politics and to the national politics and the European politics, and everybody is finger-pointing in there, does not give us any sort of help. We need new tools. We need a new sort of basic conclusion in there that simply says, okay, it's time to switch from cannot do to do something, but also to will do something. So just fix the problem is our recommendation from a communal aspect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jürgen. This is a very nice reality check, and I guess a call to action to look for new solutions. Unfortunately, we are a little bit behind time now, so I have to move to the next speaker, which is Leo, I guess, with a presentation about SOS Europe, Roads to Silence.
Yes, I'm here. And how many minutes do I have so that I can scrap something of my presentation? Because
if you take 4 minutes, that'd be great.
Really? Okay. I have to be very quick then. So, dear listeners and dear viewers, we've seen all the aspects of this problem. And I thank you all very much for having made these presentations with giving a factual view of this problem, which in the deepest sense is something of human suffering. However came we into this situation? So all the cards are on the table. In the meantime, the milk is boiling over. And when the milk is boiling over, you have to shut down the gas. Now, what does SOS Europe, of which I am the secretary, want the coming years? First of all, we want to be present at the European tables, because this is a cross-frontier problem. It's a European problem. Then we want an enforcement of Directive 2002/49/EC, and also its follow-up on the implementation of this directive in accordance with Article 11 of this directive. Then, as a third point, we want the DB killing at the source. Point 4, as Jürgen Steeger already indicated, the noise speed instruments are available, but they are expensive. So we want to set up a European fund to subsidize for small municipalities the purchase of these noise speed cameras, because we have to get the message home. You are with too many, too loud, and too often. Be an owner of your problem. Please help us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leo. This is a very nice, concise, and clear conclusion. And that leaves us 5 minutes to wrap up this meeting. So I will give the word to Niklas, who can tell us about how to go on.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hester, and thank you very much to all of the speakers who presented today. Of course, I've seen a lot of conversations and exchanges in the chat. So we basically already had a quite good online forum here, let's say. So I also have the impression that that there are some forces that would like to connect, and I think it was a great idea from the Lens project to have such a room for debate and also for exchange. What I would also like to highlight is that basically our EU-funded project, which of course is great to have it at the moment, but of course it will also end at the end of the year, more or less in Q3, as Leonidas has highlighted. So, and we are, of course, a little bit alone when it comes to European projects because we are the only vehicle noise and air pollution project that is currently being funded, but we are trying to promote the topic alongside the European Commission. So, and we have also several upcoming events where we either speak on behalf of Lens with a wider community, but also where we present our studies. So I will quickly share my screen again. You should be able to see something now. I guess so. Yes. So basically, Leonidas earlier presented that we have our tempering in-field surveys. So these are surveys where we set up our equipment next to the roadside in the Belgian city of Leuven and Paris and Barcelona. So medium-sized and very large European cities. And there we looked at the noise and air pollution measurements of passing L vehicles, and in comparison to our laboratory and our road tests of specific vehicle categories. Here we have just looked at passing vehicles, so this also gives us a very detailed overview of the challenges that exists with L vehicles. So in case you would like to register, you can scan the QR code or go on our website and register until the 2nd of July, because that's the date when it will take place as well on Zoom. And so we will have the chance that our other partners will get the opportunity to present their project results. That's going to be KU Leuven, the University from Leuven, and IVL, another partner basically as well. Then, since this is the right place here, because we have a lot of citizen initiatives here, there's the event, the German event in Berlin, which will take place on the 12th of May this year in the afternoon at the NRW Landesvertretung in Berlin. And that's the afternoon related to noise pollution of L vehicles, the Motorradlärmtag 2025. And Lens will also join the conversation with a short overview of our project by Leonidas, and I will also be there and engage with the audience. So check out the event by scanning that QR code. Maybe Edith will briefly put the event URL in the chat as well. But we are continuing this conversation, and we are very happy about this. And last but not least, when we look into the future, our final conference of the Lens project that will wrap up and present all the results of the project is most likely going to take place on the 15th or the 16th of October 2025. This will be a free event, a full day event in the center of Brussels. And basically in the next days, we are trying to find a venue and then save the date out by the end of this month. So there will also be opportunities for you to come over, and maybe there will be even some travel reimbursements opportunities, which needs to be seen as well. But sign up to our newsletter, and then you will find further information. And we are trying to share all the information, of course, in due time on our website. So let's stay in touch. I've shared this slide before, so follow us on social media or visit our website. And in case you have further questions, of course, you can engage with my colleague Fanny Boccioli and myself. In case you want to learn more or you need contacts or further information about the Lens project, we are, of course, there to help you out. And last but not least, I would like to highlight that, of course, the Lens project is a research project which will end at the end of the year. And we are basically politically neutral. We are just trying to raise awareness of the problems of noise and air pollution. But we are, of course, very happy that we have a very strong cooperation between our stakeholder groups and our citizen engagement groups. And I would like to thank all of our speakers and the entire audience on behalf of the Lens project and POLIS network. And we will hope to see you again at one of our upcoming events. So thank you very much for joining and presenting, and we wish you a great afternoon, and all the information is going to be published on our website in the next couple of days. So thank you very much, and have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.